Hello, everybody. This is J Heat 414 coming at you with some more sports commentary. Check me out on Twitter. My handle's at the Vault JMU 414. The Vault is my brain because I got a lot of useless information about sports piled up in here. Love sports, love watching it, especially football, basketball, and boxing. My three favorite. So check out my commentary. Comment if you would like. We can debate back and forth if you don't like something I said or if you agree with something I said. Either way, I won't take it personally because I just love to debate no matter what you say. So hopefully you enjoy the commentary. I want to focus really on basketball today as far as athletes 18 years old coming out of high school debating whether they want to go to college or if they want to go to the pros. And the main question is, I guess, money. Should they get paid to play? And right now in college, it's considered amateurism. You're not going to get paid, even though a lot of people would say, well, they're getting a college education, they're getting a scholarship. And I want to start off by saying, and education is very important. You definitely need to get an education. I will say you don't need to go to college in order to get an education. However, college is a great way to get an education, and it's already organized and set up to try to help you to succeed. So I don't want to dismiss going to college, but I do want to say that when it comes to basketball, it's one of the major sports that brings in a lot of money for colleges. And when you look at what the NCAA, the billions of dollars that they are bringing in, it doesn't necessarily, the numbers don't really work out when you look at the fact of the athletes are just getting their scholarship. And then the NCAA is bringing in the money they're bringing in. The coaches are making what they're making. It just doesn't necessarily add up. We're not saying you got to pay the athletes multi-million dollars or anything, but the scholarship is probably undercutting them a little bit. Maybe, as Greg Anthony once said for UNLV, you could give them what they're worth, and then they could pay their own tuition to go to college. In most walks of life, whether you're trying to be a musician or you're smart enough to go through school and become a doctor a lot earlier than others, we don't necessarily put an age restriction on it. When you're a savant at something, you can do it a little earlier than others because you're special. Being a professional athlete, they're savants. They're pretty special. And being even a Division I or a college athlete, they're special. Now, all college athletes aren't created the same, even within the sport of basketball. So when I'm talking about getting paid, I do think that colleges do have a lot to think about, even across all the sports, because if you start paying athletes in in basketball rather, then it's going to be kind of hard to say, well, should we pay them in another sport? And all the sports don't bring in the same amount of money, so it gets a little messy. So it's better that we have other avenues to be able to pay them. So I don't want to focus directly on college, except for to say that there are athletes who aren't getting their fair share. So we need to create a avenue for them in order to help them to be able to get paid. This is going to affect the quality of college basketball, unfortunately, just like the one and done rule did. Some people don't like the one and done rule. Me personally, I was a huge fan of it. I still remember how the competition level was in college in the 80s and early 90s, and how when Kevin Garnett, Kobe Bryant, T-Mac, Dwight Howard, even LeBron James, when these guys started going to the league straight out of high school, it created a little bit of a it made college basketball get a little worse to me in my eyes for a period of time. And a lot of that had to do with guys seeing that there were examples of savants that were good enough to go straight from high school to the pros, and then make it. And so a lot of other guys thought they were just as good and could go. But for every one of those names I named that made it, you may have had 5 or 6 that didn't. And because of the way the current system was set up or is set up, they couldn't then fall back on going to school and getting that education. So they have to find other means to get an education. And like I said, you can without college, but it's a little more difficult if you don't know what to do or point it in the right direction sometimes. So just consider the fact that that kind of, was screwing a lot of people. So because of that, the NBA had to kind of institute that one and done rule, or put that in play where they had to at least go to college for a year. And I think that really helped because it brought back the top athletes, albeit for 1 year. Before the one and done rule, and before, let's say, before Kevin Garnett, those top athletes were going to college for 2, 3, in a lot of cases 4 years. So we got to see them even longer, made college even better. But then all of a sudden they weren't going at all. And then college got a little weaker. Then we get the one and done rule. At least we're getting them for a year, sometimes 2. So college kind of picked up again to me, in some ways, because we could see those guys playing on that level, and it gave that athlete the opportunity to see whether or not they are good enough for the pro level, because it is a huge jump. Can't state that enough. Being somebody who's had an opportunity to play against Division I college athletes in basketball and see just how big of a level jump it is from a high school player, and also getting to play against an NBA player, seeing how big a jump that is from college. It's not easy. So athletes need some guidance and help, but they also shouldn't necessarily be exploited, and have colleges and coaches and everybody making tons of money except for them, and calling it in the interest of them getting an education, when a lot of them are coming to school specifically to play sports. And no, it's not guaranteed, but again, we're talking about the ones who are special enough to do it. We need to create an avenue for them. So maybe colleges maybe that's not the way. Maybe colleges can't pay them. And again, we're not talking multi-millions, but still, let's say colleges can't pay them at all. So it's good that we have the NBA, Adam Silver, working on a plan to be able to get them paid coming right out of high school, but not having to make the jump to the league where they may not be ready and then may get cut. And then based on their grades from high school, they don't have the ability to get into a school just strictly from an academic standpoint, and they can't get in on their sports anymore because they took money. So, it's really messed up the way the system is worked out that way, but it is what it is. So we got to create another avenue. Adam Silver's trying to do that. He's been working really well. Dave Stern, the commissioner before him in the NBA, did a great job with the league, and Adam Silver's kind of taken over from there and taking it to new heights. And this is one of the things he's trying to do. But basically, if you don't know, what they're hoping to do is set up an avenue for these athletes to be able to not just get paid, but also get an education. Doesn't mean they're going to learn how to be a doctor or a lawyer or an engineer per se, but they may learn how to balance their bank account, learn how to manage their money, learn how to invest their money, learn how to keep their money, which is important for them, and will give them what they need in case for some reason they don't make it through the developmental process of the league. They still have some money they can fall back on and go get an education now. And they already have somewhat of an education uh, from going through this developmental program. So Adam's trying to do what he can, but colleges right now have been benefiting a lot off of these athletes, and so people are getting frustrated, especially the athlete, um, and wanting to know when they're going to get their cut or how to get their cut, and feeling kind of exploited because not just that the colleges are making money, but they're putting a lot of time and effort into being able to be a great athlete and also get an education because they can't get kicked out academically. At least, while they're there, they're trying to get their education, not get kicked out for not going to class, but also trying to win games, trying to improve on their game so that they can get to that next level. And that's two full-time jobs if you're at a major institution. If you're at like let's say a Duke University, and I'm jumping out there with, one of the top academic institutions, but also one of the top programs from a basketball standpoint too. These athletes are working two full-time jobs trying to do that, and that's very, very difficult to do. And then you're bringing down the morale because they feel like they aren't getting what they're worth, not being paid, while having to put in day in and day out time on working on their craft so they can be some of the best in the world at what they do. Meanwhile, trying to get an education just to fit in society once they get done, in case things don't work out in sports. So it's a whole lot on them. And with the NBA developmental program starting to take shape, I'm hoping that athletes get a better opportunity. This isn't going to be for everybody. So if you're out there thinking, I can go get paid in the D League, G League is this called now. I don't have to worry about going to college. Pump the brakes. Definitely, it's not for everybody because, again, like I said, D1 athletes, the jump from there to the pros is a big one. So there will be some people that's going to have to go to school, and they need to get their education because that is important. And no matter what you do in sports, sports only lasts for so long because the body always breaks down. And eventually, contrary to what Tom Brady may think, and I say that lightheartedly, eventually it ends. And then you're going to have to do something after basketball. So, what do you all think out there? I guess give me your opinions on athletes getting paid. Do you think they should get paid? Shouldn't they get paid? When should they get paid? Um, and I'd love to read your comments and see what you all think. Holla at your boy.